Alright, welcome back to the series. In this video, I'll be showing you guys how to make the actual maze of the game, and it won't be as hard as it was for the player tutorial, just because the player tutorial involves a lot of more complicated fundamentals, let's say, but the maze, it's 10 times more easier. So, just as a recap, we went over what nodes are, and nodes are basically the building block of your game. And scenes, we could we could say that they're almost the walls to our house. And if that all makes sense, the nodes will build up the scenes, and the scenes will build up our game. And nodes have, or some nodes have, their own characteristics or features, and they're all classed by different sections. So like node 30 has all of these nodes, and control will have all of these nodes. And scenes are basically a way to store nodes, a group of nodes, I'd say, into one place, and you could put them anywhere. So today you'll finally be able to understand exactly what I mean, and let's just get started. So in the world folder, we're gonna add a scene to that. So let's press this plus button, and we're simply gonna press the 30 scene. And let's just press Control S to save. Double click the world folder, and we're gonna highlight this and replace it with maze. And then press save to save. Okay, so we just created a new scene, and a node 3D is the root node of the scene. So let's just rename this to maze. Okay, and let's add a mesh. Okay, so we went over meshes a little bit, and we're not going to go into too much detail this time. We'll go slightly into more detail, but not that much. Okay, so you're going to click on the mesh property box over here once again, and instead of pressing capsule, you're going to press plane mesh. And the plane, it's mainly used for like floors, roofs. It's basically it appears on two axes, which are the Z and X. Unless I rotate it, of course. You just think of it as like a really thin box. And this is going to act as our floor. So we're going to rename this to floor. And you can rename stuff by double clicking on nodes, sorry. And Control S, because why not? And once we're done with that, we want to increase the size of our floor. And to do that, you can click on the mesh, and a bunch of properties will appear. You're probably assuming this is where we have to go, and you're right. So we're just gonna increase this by like a lot, because I'm gonna do 10, I'm gonna do 100. Okay. Okay, so we have our floor. Now let's add a static body so that we can add our player to the scene, the player won't fall through the floor. So we went over collisions briefly in the previous video, and once again to recap on it, it basically tells a game where everything is. For us, the meshes are the visual representation. For the game, it will be the collisions that are the representations. And the physics body help do that. So let's add a static body, which is under this physics body 3D. And we've done that. Now let's create a collision shape. Actually, delete that and we'll go over this little button. I think I briefly went over that too, but you can see it in work now, I guess. So all you're going to do is click this button, press create trim stack body, and that's literally it, except you want to change your collision layers. We went over that in the previous video too, so you want the mesh to be on the world layer because it's part of the world, and you want it to read or look for the player, and that's it because we have other really layers. And just check worlds just in case we miss click or forget to change the layer or something, because it won't really affect it otherwise. And now we're going to press Ctrl Shift A, double click on player, and we do not want the player to be halfway through the floor, so let's just raise him up a bit. Okay, so this should work. Let's press play, and let's press select current. Oh. So there. And I forgot to actually change my input names. So just double check yours in case you do the same mistake I did. For a second I got scared that I messed up something, because as of right now I believe the first video was published, so that would have been bad. And I forgot to change this. No. Okay, so I can move. Oh, that's too fast. I can sprint, of course. I get another A. Yes, I am backwards. Okay. So this is going to be our main scene, and you might be wondering, why does this look so bright compared to when we run our actual game? Like, look how dark and gray everything looks. Well, it's a simple thing, really. All it is we didn't click a button, or 3 buttons, or 4 buttons. It's not that hard. So all you gotta do is you gotta add an environment to your scene. And you can do this by clicking these 3 dots, add an environment to scene, and add some to scene. So what's 3? Anyways, the world environment node basically just adds the ability to give you a sky, a sun, a ground, if you can see this like dark, faded, and void looking thing. And the directional light is a node that is essentially a sun. And you can see it has its properties set, so it acts like a sun. And if we run a game now, yeah, we do have a sky, we have a dark void under us, and you can see shadows. So that's pretty cool. And we have our player. So again, you can now see that the player is added to the maze scene. So we have a scene within a scene. And you might be wondering why not just make a player in this main scene. So just move all of these nodes into this scene. Why do I have to have its own separate scene? Well, first of all, it's a good habit to use. Second, again, we come back to the topic of where we must be neat and detailed and basically just have a project which you can expand upon. So an example of this could be if I want levels in my game. I want 2 mazes, right? I want level 1 maze and level 2 maze. The level 1 maze will be its own separate scene, and the level 2 maze will be another separate scene. And it would be very useful to be able to instance the player once you switch levels instead of, just having, I guess, one fake player in one scene and one real player, if that makes sense. Because one of the players won't be lurking, and when you switch over, you could lose some features, because if you want to change something in the script over here, or just add a new node to the player, you'd have to copy and paste it into Maze 2, and it can be really tedious. So there's really just no reason to not use scenes. And again, if you make a change to this scene, it will be replicated onto all the instances of the scene, wherever they are. So that's one neat feature. And enough rambling, let's go on. Okay, so we have the general base plate. I'm actually gonna make it bigger. So 300, 300. And I forgot the okay, so I'm just gonna delete the static body and reapply it. Because why not? We don't want to fall to the floor, right? Okay, so now that's that stuff. Okay, now we're gonna create a new scene. In this scene, it's gonna consist of one single node, I think, at the moment. On this instance, I'm going to press Control S, make sure it's in the world folder, and we're going to call this wall. And that's it. And then we're going to click on the mesh property. We're going to create a box mesh. And we'll set this to a default value of, I guess, 10 by, no, let's say 50. Oh, it should be fine. Okay, so that's decent size wall. Just make it a square. And we're going to rename this to wall. We're going to add a script to this. And we're going to delete all this because It's kind of useless. And the main purpose of this script will be to change the wall's size. So let's go on about that. And we're going to create a new variable type, and this is going to be an export variable. So we're going to change this to export variable default. Actually, we'll do size x. And now we get an error saying blah blah blah. Basically, it cannot be used without a type, so data type or whatever you want to call it. And what it means by that is it's talking about the colon. The colon, we're going to set it to a type of float. If you remember what a float is, it's basically 0. A decimal basically. And I think I forgot to mention, to comment, you press hashtag and type whatever you want. And that's useful if you want to basically just leave comments throughout your code so you know what you're doing when you come back to it. It's a habit that I'm not really using at the moment, but I should do that. So, I mean, at least I use it when I create variables at the very least. So let's go control size.x of mesh, and then export variable size y. Actually, the default. Okay, so I know I haven't explained what export means, but I'll tell you in just a second. Value of meshes. Oh my god. Okay, I can spell. Alright, so essentially what an export variable is, it's not much different from a normal variable. So like a normal variable could be size x. The most significant change between them, or the difference between them, is you notice if you click this wall button, the wall node, sorry, if you look in the right under the properties, you'll notice our variable is up here. And what this lets us do is change the variable within the editor. And unlike if you had a normal variable, so if I had a normal variable called size, or size z, right? I set that to a float. I would not be able to change this variable throughout different instance scenes. So pretend, I'll show you an example. So I have wall 1, and I can change this to 5, I'll change this to 10. Obviously we won't do anything yet. And then we'll have, oops. Oh, and also if you press Control Shift A, it opens up your scene, like instance scenes that are able to be instanced. And I can add another one, and you can notice these values are not changed. So you can imagine how useful this is to add multiple instance scenes. An example of this could be like if you want, like if you're making a first person shooter game and you had different guns, right, or weapons, and you want to change the damage between them when they were like in someone's, if inventory, you could change the variable through the editor features. That was a really poor example, but I don't know any simple examples until you get into like more difficult programming. But most likely, as we go on through this tutorial or series, there'll be plenty of opportunities to test out the export variables. And I really just wanted to introduce that in case you were working on a project in between these videos, so that you can use them in your own projects. But for us right now, these are going to be of no use at all. So I'm just going to keep it like that though, because it really doesn't make a difference. And I'll just change the default y value to 50 because that's what we already set. Now we're going to create a new function. So I know in the player script we mainly kept around inbuilt functions within a node. However, we're going to create our own function, which is going to be called function change the size. And with any function, you need to add parentheses at the end of the name and put a colon and press enter. It should be indented. And all we're going to do for this is we're going to change the size of the wall when this function is called. But we don't know what to change it to. So, and we're not going to have a predetermined. So we're going to create parameters. And we're going to do new x. And that's it, because we're only going to be changing the x. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Okay. And we're going to do new x dot. Actually, sorry. We're going to. So, if the script is on a node, you don't need to add a reference to it, because by default, you could get the property of the node without like calling a reference to it. Like, here's an example, like camera 3D. So if I had a script on camera 3D, I could just call rotation degrees.x. So I can delete the camera 3D part. And whatever, you can just clear that. And all we're going to do is we're going to do mesh. So this gets the mesh. And we're going to get the size. Okay, so get the mesh. Cut this out, cut this out, cut this out. Okay. Um, I'm gonna use scale. So if featuring doesn't like that, just delete this clip. Okay, I'm going in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we got the mesh property. Now we're gonna change. We're actually gonna delete that. Sorry. We're gonna need to scale the object. Because as far as I know, I do not think you can change the size of a mesh. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna change the X scale, and all this does is you click R or scale mode at the top. You can drag this out, and that's all that scaling the X does. And you can press right click to cancel, or Control C. However, to change the scale, it's not like just adding +1. I'll show you. Let's see if they say in the documents. Yeah, okay, so if you look over here, the default value of scale is vector 3, then 1, 1, 1. And this one represents the X axis, this represents the Y axis, and this one represents the Z axis. So we can't just add +1. We're gonna add, we're gonna do this instead. So we could do plus equals vector 3, if I can spell. And then we do 0, new x, new x, 0, 0. And we need to do this because you can't add a data type onto another random data type. Like, I would not be able to add an int to a string. And if you don't know what a string is, it's basically just a string of words. So this is a string. If I can spell, that makes sense. And I guess the only real exception is if you do 1 plus 0.1 or any float. Int and float can go together. But anyways, that should be all it takes. And let's go back to our maze scene. Okay, so now let's go over quickly what a material is. And a material is how to customize a mesh. Its color, its reflectiveness, almost anything you can think of. And we're not going to go through all of these because you can imagine it will take quite a bit of time. So we're going to scroll down to albedo, and this is where you can change the color. And what we're going to do for the color is we're going to scroll down this value so we can actually get really vibrant colors. You can select whatever you want. I'm going to select a greenish color. Yeah, that's really so much as I'm willing to go through right now. And you can do the same for the walls. So I'm going to add a material. And I'm going to make this dark red, brownish orange kind of color. Okay, so I know I said that we'd be done with the maze in this video, but I ended up taking longer than I hoped for, so I'll make a new video going over how to automatically procedurally generate the maze, and I know it sounds really confusing, but it shouldn't be too difficult. And I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, thanks for watching, and if you have any suggestions of tutorials you'd like to see or any other video kind of topics, please let me know down in the comments. And also, if you need help, like a side project you're working on, let me know, and I'll have the actual video generating the maze probably out around the same time as this one, so hopefully I don't let you guys down too much. But thanks for watching.